praising the plan, saying it could create thousands of jobs and pump $1 billion into the state and local economy. But critics loudly declaring not in my backyard. With us now, senior Fox News judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Are there any legal problems associated with doing this?
You know, when discussing this with Catherine Herridge, who's our national security correspondent, she pointed out that there may be a federal legal impediment here.
What is it?
It's a bill, it's a law written in the aftermath of the Reconstruction era, which prevents the military from performing ordinary law enforcement functions. It's called the Posse Comitatus Act. It prevents the governor of a state from calling out the military to investigate a bank robbery, for example. It would also prohibit the military from confining ordinary criminal suspects. It wouldn't prevent the federal government from paying state officials to guard them, but it might prevent the federal government from literally having military people guard them in the middle of Illinois.
All right, now we did ask our viewers, good idea or bad idea to put Gitmo detainees at this Illinois maximum security prison. And look at this. 8% say, yeah, it's good for the local economy and jobs. 85% say it is too dangerous. And you know, Judge, I've heard a lot of lawmakers say, and they're sincere about this makes Illinois and the United States more of a target. We're already a target, aren't we?
Well, we are already a target. Remember, we had Nazi prisoners here during World War II, and I don't know of a single instance of escape or terrorism or harm that they caused. But I will tell you this, the military does not like to run prisons. The Justice Department does a far better job at running prisons, at confining prisoners. We should let the Justice Department do its job.
I want to talk to you about the evidence that can and cannot be presented in a federal civilian court for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the 4 other suspected terrorists. They weren't Mirandized. There were probably no spontaneous admissions. I would envision that a lot of the confessions and incriminating statements and all of the derivative evidence gathered therefrom would be inadmissible because the federal rules of evidence were not applied.
Well, federal prosecutors know better than to attempt to introduce any evidence obtained under duress, even if it is evidence that they would likely come upon anyway, the so-called inevitability doctrine that lawyers and judges talk about. Right. If torture was involved or any kind of physical duress, the federal courts won't permit it. But in fact, these guys were Mirandized as soon as they got to Gitmo. They were Mirandized by military judges.
They didn't get to Gitmo for quite a while. They were in Afghanistan, then a prison in Poland.
The best evidence against them is what they've said in Gitmo, where they've admitted to this, where one of them even wrote a letter to his wife boasting about what he accomplished.
Won't a clever defense attorney, maybe even a not so clever defense attorney, say, hey, wait a minute, everything that happened after interrogation, coercion, alleged torture is the product of that and therefore inadmissible?
That would be for a federal judge to decide. Has enough time passed? Is the environment so different that the statements made in a courtroom in Cuba were voluntary, whereas statements made under duress in Poland or wherever it might be were involuntary?
What about physical evidence that was gathered on the battlefield and not pursuant to a judge who signs off with probable cause in a search warrant?
I have to think that if the Justice Department took 9 months to decide to move these guys to Washington, D.C. To New York. They've already evaluated the evidence and come to a conclusion that it is likely to be admitted. What it is beyond those admissions in the courtroom in Gitmo, I don't know.
How many prosecutors in your day sitting on a bench with a black robe tried to present evidence and you said no?
I said no a lot.
Yeah.
Because the job of the judge is to make sure that that trial is fair to the government and fair to the defendant.
Well, it'll be up to a judge, not Eric Holder, who promises that it's admissible evidence.
What a trial it will be, Greg.
Indeed.
A few miles from here.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, good to see you as always.
Likewise.